This episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast is brought to you by Healing Hands International. I would like for you to think for a moment about how many times you have used water today. You probably brushed your teeth, took a shower, washed your hands, cooked, made coffee, washed your clothes, and even flushed the toilet a few times. How far did you have to walk for it? Across the bedroom? To the other side of the house? Did you know that every day millions of people all over the world get up and walk several miles to search for water? Not to mention that more times than not, the water that they do find is dirty and causes them to get sick. For the past 20 years, churches and individuals have been partnering with Healing Hands International to bring an end to the water crisis by drilling water wells and distributing water filtration systems. HHI empowers Christians to live out their calling to do good to all by providing local opportunities to make a global difference. If you want to be a part of this effort, you can get involved by coordinating a Walk for Water event. Walk for Water is a simple concept. If you want to host a walk, all you need to do is 3 things. Pick a date, find a location, and get people there. Healing Hands is going to take care of the rest. That's what they're doing for the one planned in our hometown of Florence, Alabama on April 18th at 2 p.m. at McFarland Park. If you want to learn more about how you can help people get clean water, please visit walkforwater.org/Ben and Travis. That's walk, the numeral 4, water.org/Ben and Travis. Join us in changing the water cycle today.
Welcome into the Helping Healing Humor podcast with Ben and Travis. It's Travis Creasy, Ben Hayes, coming to you from
Cleveland, Tennessee.
Yeah, after a tough outing on the wiffle ball field.
It was.
Ben performed better than me, but Team Travis took the win. So I'm not sure, the win, what does that mean really in history? But Ben can say that he hit a home run in wiffle ball.
I sure did. That might be my first ever home run in an actual game of any kind. So I'll take it, whatever. We're in Cleveland, Tennessee. We were here for the North Bradley Youth Rally, Youth Days, a couple of days.
Yeah.
So we enjoyed being up here with you guys, or those guys, and I know some of you listen to the podcast, so thank you for your hospitality. The big basket's full of a bunch of goodies that you left here in this marvelous hotel room. Some pretty legit rings.
Yeah, man, that's cool. That's real cool. Got a Alabama quarter, I guess is what that is.
It's what it is.
Turned into a ring.
That's illegal. Then we're sorry.
Yeah.
But we now are carrying them on our fingers. Guy here makes them, and pretty awesome stuff. I need to find his little card, and people can order them.
Yeah.
So I think I think he gave me a card with it. So anyway, it's just been a really cool weekend.
Oh, it's been a great weekend. And talking, I think the theme is fearless. Mm-hmm. We missed out on an opportunity to do Fear Factor and put people through.
I don't know why we didn't
those
do that.
things, but it's been a good weekend. Had a big day today. We both spoke twice on different things pertaining to fear and Christianity, and
had a little bit of a devotional last night before today's activities, and then we'll speak a couple of times tomorrow and head back to our respected towns after that. But it's been cool to get to hang out and be around here, meet some new brothers and sisters is always a fun thing.
Yeah, and like I said, we've been talking a little bit about fearlessness in the Christian walk, and we had a few things that we wanted to kind of share from the weekend that we shared, and at this time we hadn't shared it yet, but we will.
We're about to
on our last day here with the folks, but we're looking to do that. We've got a lesson. It's kind of a question and answer session class on Sunday morning about what teenagers wish their parents knew, and what parents wish their teenagers knew. And so we're going to share some of that information that we've compiled with our wonderful, awesome Ben and Travis listeners out there.
Yeah, several years ago, actually, we asked a couple of youth groups, and I guess I can name them: Highland Park Church of Christ in Muscle Shoals, where I work, and Chase Park over in Huntsville. Some kids had given us some answers to these questions, and I guess more or less, we're going to talk about from the standpoint of what kids wish that we knew as parents about them. And I'm sure as parents, we can give some perspective to what we wish the kids know. And so we may follow up kind of at the end with that. But
just wanted to give a couple of thoughts and a couple of ideas to what some of these kids said in these little surveys. They were anonymous, so they just wrote stuff down. Some of them are, kind of interesting and silly, like don't get mad at me when I want something expensive. Sorry, just probably going to happen sometimes. But but then there was some really insightful stuff too. Some things that really made me think then. And I think even though it's been a couple of years since we interviewed, I think it would be interesting if maybe on here, we offer to you guys if there's some thoughts that you have about your, what you would like your kids to know, or what you'd like your parents to know. If your kid listening to it, send us a private message. We can always anonymously put that stuff out somewhere, as long as it's appropriate and whatnot. But, I think it would be really cool to see the answers to that now. But kind of grouped them into some things because they were just, kind of scattered all around, but we grouped some of these ideas together and we just wanted to share them with you.
Yeah. I think they're good. I think it's always good to, maybe sometimes interject a middle person, there's not going to be repercussions. And I think that they were open and honest, and that's always a good thing generally.
Yeah. So the first thing that we kind of heard or got from it was I need room. And I don't think that's as much of, I need a room or an apartment or, I need to move out or anything, but it has more to do with I need room to make mistakes. I think so many times we sort of limit the ability of our kids to make mistakes. I think we shared a quote at this point when you listen to this. It may be a few weeks ago, but it was about the little engine that could, and if mom got behind it every time it got in trouble and rescued it from those difficulties, then it would have a hard time really developing and growing the way it needed to. So the same thing with us is I think the kids need healthy boundaries. They need room to grow. They need enough rope that they can make bad choices and live to tell about it. But probably not enough that they can get out there and get hurt, hang themselves, with the rope. We don't, we want to give them as much rope as we can so that they can learn while still sort of under our safety.
Yeah, I remember we were taking foster parent classes, and one of the videos they showed us, and it was done in a cartoon animated way. It was this circle of safety, but exploration. They know where mom's at. They know the boundaries where they can go, but they're allowed to go. And they always know that mom's there waiting or dad's there waiting when they need them. And they can come back and share what they've found, what they've explored. But also if they get themselves in trouble, they know that they don't have to get too far gone. They can always come back and make it right. And I think Lonnie mentioned that in the SWAT skits this year at CYC about, you skin your knee when you're a kid, you want your mom. And, with God, we don't want to be that way. We don't want it to get to the point where, I skinned my knee. I'm so ashamed that I can't share with anybody. But you have that open communication there.
Yeah, some of the kids' exact quotes were, I know more than they think I do about good and bad choices. So maybe they're, I don't know what kids said this or what the scenario was, but they didn't feel like, it sounded like that they got a whole lot of room to make some of those choices. One said it's all about trust. One said, would you give me more freedom? Their whole quote was, extend my curfew, give me more freedom, don't be nosy, and give me more money. I'm not going to say that you need to do all of those things, but, there's a few things in there that you go, hey, it is good. And that's what you want. I mean, you want them to learn freedom before you turn them out on the world.
And understand that a lot of those things lead to the next thing. Show responsibility in one thing, you're going to get other opportunities.
Yeah, I think the Bible talks about that.
Yeah, I think so too.
Faithful in small things, and So I think that's kind of where you start at, and then another one was I need you to listen and pay attention to me. I think that one's a big one. That's probably a big one for all of us, though, isn't it? That's not just it's not just a teenager thing. That's all of us. When we talk about husbands and wives, you talk about elderships and ministers, you talk about just about anything in life, we need to know that we are heard. And so I think we've talked about this before on the podcast, but, the idea of listening to understand, not listening to judge or listening to fix or listening to have a sarcastic reply that we're really good at sometimes. But instead of listening to do one of those things, I just want to listen to hear and understand you. And, so many kids that I see, teenagers and kids that I see in counseling, a lot of times the parents say, well, they won't talk to you. They're not going to say anything to you. And they're worried about what they're going to do and say. But when they get an opportunity and they get a place where they can openly communicate, it surprises you what they will share.
Yeah, I remember when our kiddos came to our house, we were fostering, and my daughter had very small vocabulary. Mine, which we heard 1,000 times, and ha, which is hot. And that was about it. And you could, even at her age, you could see the frustration that she had and the inability to be able to communicate. And she didn't have the vocabulary to. So I can't imagine, you multiply that by having the vocabulary, but not being listened to. And I'm certainly guilty of doing people that way and kind of thinking about what's my response, what am I going to say rather than, actually listening to what they're trying to get across.
Well, and on the flip side of that, or at least in a different area of that, and what you were saying about Haley is, with little kids, they, you listen by watching them play. That's how they communicate. Yeah. So it's not just, so if you're talking about teenagers, actually listening to them say what they need to say. But when it's talking about little kids, sit down and play with them, play games with them. A good time to communicate or good things to communicate with, like Chutes and Ladders is a great game. You can talk about when, consequences and rewards and all that kind of stuff. Talk Candyland is another one like that. Playing board games, playing with dolls, playing with whatever, may be the case, whatever your kid's into, play with them. And that's generally how they express themselves. So, not just listening to words, but listening to, actions and what they're doing and what they're saying. Because, a lot of times if somebody comes to us, if one of our kids comes to us and says something, just like if one of your football players or somebody, at school that you interact with in the Bible classes or whatever, they come up and say something to you. And the first thing you say is, that's ridiculous, that's stupid, whatever. Even if you think it's stupid, probably not the best thing to lead with that.
Oh no. Yeah. They want if you want people to invest in anything you're doing, they need to feel like they've been heard and to some degree validation, at least acknowledge, I hear what you're saying. We're going to work through this, but that's not a great way to start.
No, like one thing said, you have to be willing sometimes to listen to some remarkably bad opinions. Because if you say to someone, that's the silliest thing I've ever heard, get on out of here, then you'll never get anything out of the person again. And you might as well have a puppet on a string or a robot. John Bryan said that. I thought that was pretty good.
You think about, frustrations at any level, right? If there were open communication, the government, church, team, across the board, open communication, how refreshing is that when everyone gets their, thoughts heard, and then you get to decipher which ones are worth your time. Then you move into, okay, is that really a valid thing, a plan or whatever it is, or opinion? But in the day and age where people just shout each other down, can be frustrating.
Yeah, and if Ralph Nichols, another quote here, the most basic of all human needs is the need to understand and to be understood. The best way to understand people is to listen to them. One of the kids said, the world is not the same as it was when they were kids. Like, it's not the same as it was when my parents were kids. And that, to me, that translates to, will you listen to the needs that I've got now? Because I know I've probably shut my kids down a few times or talked to them about, well, when I was growing up, it was this way, and that's just the way it was. Well, it is different. Some of the temptations, and I hope that, as a parent, if we want to flip side this for a second, as a parent, I want them to know I have been there. I've gone through those struggles. I've faced some of the
things.
It
hadn't been that long.
Yeah, it hadn't been
that long.
20,
yeah, let's not put a number on it. But it hadn't been that long.
5 years, whatever. But, I do know what those temptations. Solomon says there's nothing new under the sun. So, there's temptations still fall under the idea of lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes, and pride of life. I mean, you know, they all fall under that. They may be different because there's technology and other things that happen
differently.
Yeah, but they're the same. So I want them to know that, but at the same time, I need to listen because they need to feel heard. They need to feel like I have heard that it is different and that their needs may be different. You know, that's the thing that we just really need. Somebody said, many a man would rather you have heard his story than granted his request. It's a pretty good quote too. So Philip Stanhope, I believe, is who said that. So, you know, I just want to be heard. You may not give me what I want, but at least hear me out. Biblically speaking, be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger, you know, fits into that. So anyway, that's number 2. Any other thoughts on that one?
No, I think you nipped it in the bud there.
There we go.
We need to
Get
be willing to hear the other perspective. And I think that helps us on just about every level of relationship you can imagine if you feel heard.
And don't forget Proverbs 18:13, because it says, he who gives an answer before he hears, to him it's folly and shame. So
I've had a lot of folly and shame.
The Lord told us to do that. So I think it's important for us.
Yeah.
So third thing then is I need you to know that what you say matters no matter what I say. In other words, sometimes I'm going to act like I don't care about what you say, but the reality is that I do. Like, I do listen to what you say. One person said their opinions matter way, and they put like a bunch of A's on there, way more than they think. Even if we act like we don't care, we do. Another one said, without them, my life would be really worthless. Their comfort goes a long way in getting me ready for my future. I feel that my life would be lost and very sinful in other groups outside the church. So, you know, kind of a thank you for raising me the right way. So I think, you know, it really does matter. They do listen to what you're saying, even if they may give you the, you know, or whatever it may be.
Or whatever. That's another good word you get to hear. You know, I think a lot of times, you know, you have people, if you ever run into somebody that speaks a different language, sometimes we crank our volume louder as though that helps them translate what we're saying. And I think a lot of times when I'm dealing with my kids and I want them to understand something, my volume goes up higher. And really, that probably does not help. And so if I really realized what this is saying, then I don't have to change my volume. I don't have to do anything, you know, you're going to lock eyes on me and look me in the eye when I talk to you, you know, that they're getting it. And I don't have to do all the theatrics that go along with that sometimes as a parent.
Yeah, and I think it's important for us to sit back. I mean, just think right now. Think about the things you can remember that someone said to you back in the day. Like, I'm sure most of us can come up with something that we have heard, that we remember hearing, that somebody said to us that was kind of hurtful. And I talk to people all the time that, you know, there's something that somebody said a long, long time ago, and maybe they didn't even mean it in as harsh of a way as it came across. And that's the other thing about the listening and the active listening and communicating back and forth, is because how many times has somebody been mad? You know, you've been arguing with Whitney, or I've been arguing with Kenya or something. And as we do that, either I said something I didn't mean to say, or she said something she didn't mean to say, or I heard something that she didn't mean to say, you know, or she heard something that I didn't think I said, you know, and it may be on the speaker and it may be on the listener, but regardless, there was something there. And so, you know, making sure that you listen to each other, communicate that back. And oftentimes I've talked with people who have, you know, somebody has said something ugly to them, you know, 20 years ago, and they're still carrying it around with them. And I've even had some people come to me. I had somebody come to me one time and apologize for something that they said to me like forever ago.
Was that me?
It wasn't you. You never apologized for me. I'm just kidding.
And you also assume that Whitney and I have arguments. Which is
I mean, why would y'all have arguments?
Outrageous.
We don't have arguments. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we do have arguments. But like, I remember them coming to me and saying they were sorry for something that I didn't even know. Like, I to this day don't even know what they were talking about, but they carried it around because they thought that it was hurtful to me. And at that point, it wasn't. But there's been other things that people have said that have been, and you carry those things around. So, these kids that somebody says something to them, they end up, reshifting it. We all did when we were kids, shifting it around in their brains that says, I'm worthless, I'm unloved, I'm unwanted. It'd be better off if I wasn't around. And so they turn those kind of comments into something else. So make sure that what we're saying to them is powerful, encouraging, helpful. And how many times did Paul, Peter, the other writers of the New Testament deal with, they encourage the church even when they're writing a letter to say, hey, y'all got to fix some stuff. But they always at the beginning.
Always bookend.
Yeah. Like, you guys are doing great on all this stuff, but while I got you here, I'm going to tell you about a few things that aren't working right. And then, hey, man, you guys are great. Hope to see you soon. So, I mean, there was always some positive stuff surrounding it. And so make sure as families, as parents, that we're communicating positively to our kids. There's all kinds of passages in the New Testament and the Old Testament that talk about that. Gentle words are a tree of life, Proverbs 15:4. A deceitful tongue crushes the spirit. A word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in settings of silver, Proverbs 25:11. So there's all sorts of places that we can, understand. This one is really great. Proverbs 12:18. There's one whose rash words are like sword thrusts, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. So, our words can make a big difference with people. So, make sure that they know that you are listening to them. When I mess up, one of the kids said, it doesn't mean I didn't try. So I want us to know that they're trying. They're doing what they can. Any other thoughts?
The best they know how. And for the most part, I wished, once again, and I'm not getting political or anything like that, or social media, how much would we be better off if we gave people a lot more of the benefit of the doubt? Obviously people do things wrong. Yes, if I did something wrong, I would expect Ben, because we have that type of relationship, for him to come and help me correct that. But a lot of times it's not my place, right? In some situations, and especially online, a lot of those situations. And so, the wisdom of all this that's being talked about can be, and I've said it, can be, projected at a lot of levels and different types of relationships. But yeah, I think we're all, to the most part, even, we're doing the best we know how. Now, the way we know how, is that always right? No. But if we can all see each other, especially that parent daughter son relationship, that we're all trying to do the best we know how, and we're in this together.
Yeah.
We can improve it together.
Yeah, and I try all the time to kind of self-reflect, and I know I mess up a lot, and I try, when I do, to go to my kids and tell them, hey, I messed up on that one. That was a bad call on my part, so that they know it's okay to be wrong. They know it's okay that sometimes they're going to, just like me, they're going to miscue. They're going to do something that they didn't intend to do. They're going to say something that they didn't intend to say. And so I want them to know that. I want them to know that sometimes I do that, and that, they're going to do it too sometimes, but that we can still love each other and still work things out. Because I know sometimes in our world, it doesn't seem like it's okay to disagree, or to, say that, hey, there's a difference of opinion here, but there is room for that, and there's room to work it out and talk about it. And fourth thing that kind of seemed to stand out, that goes somewhat with all these, they kind of piggyback off each other, but the fourth thing is, I need your approval. One of the kids said, all I ever wanted to do is make you proud of me. I know we talked a little bit about that in the podcast a few weeks ago with you and your dad and me and my dad. I think all of us have that mindset. Even I think I mentioned then that, the idea that Jesus, when he was transfigured, he said, this is my son in whom I am pleased. Or maybe that was at the baptism, one of the two, maybe both of them. But the voice came out of heaven and said that, I'm proud of this, my son. It was at the baptism, sorry. The other one, Mark 9:7, was, this is my beloved son, listen to him. But either way, like, the approval is there. This was my son. This is the one that I want you to listen to. This is the one I'm proud of. And I think every kid needs to hear that.
Every one of them. And, I think that, you may have mentioned this also, that, it shouldn't be attached to some, thing that they've done, which that's fine. And you want to do that, but there needs to be those times where it's, hey, random Tuesday morning, hey, you need to know that you're mine. I claim you, whether you want me to or not, depending on what day it is. And I'm proud of that connection.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to, like you said, doesn't have to come with when there's a ball game or, when they've done something good. They need the approval just for being who they are. And they need the approval after they might have stunk up a game. I'm good at going, picking the game apart, like something happens with one of the kids and I go, well, if you'd have done this, and I can tell sometimes that it's like crushing their spirit at that point. And so you just go, look, you did good. Your game was great. I just wanted you to know about those things. So we'll talk about those later.
24-hour period might come into effect there.
Give them a little time to get over the loss or whatever it is.
We talk a lot about the importance of mental and emotional health on the podcast. But what if you're concerned about the emotional health of a child? Sometimes after a major change, a child may begin to struggle emotionally or socially. You can tell that they are struggling because they might begin to behave badly or have extreme feelings of worry or sadness. They might even engage in destructive behaviors or regress in their normal development. Children don't have the ability to express their concerns verbally as you and I do. Play therapy might be the answer. In play therapy, toys are like the child's words, and play is the child's language. Amy Thompson at Serenity Counseling helps children who may be struggling emotionally or socially learn more adaptive behaviors. Through play therapy, a child can also learn to communicate with others, express feelings, develop problem-solving skills, and learn a variety of ways of relating to others. Give Amy a call at 256-263-6367 to find out more about how play therapy might be just what you've been searching for. Registration for Titus Camp is now open at hcu.edu. Titus stands for Teens in Training for Useful Service. Titus is a leadership training camp that promotes public speaking, Christian service, and is hosted on the campus of Heritage Christian University. Titus provides a speaking assignment to every single camper at local churches in the Shoals area. Join me at this year's session, July 11th through the 18th. Be sure to register today for only $25 by clicking the link in our description.
Thanks for being with us for this episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast. Be sure to download our free ebook, 28 Days of Focused Living, at benandtravis.com and receive all of our Helping Healing and Humor extra content directly in your inbox. We look forward to having you join us at the same Ben and Travis time, same Ben and Travis channel.